So early on, in my principalship, we did apply for the National Blue Ribbon Award. It wasn't so much a reflection of what I had done, it was a reflection of the school. One of 250 schools in the country. We were selected. It was quite a process. So it was, it was a good school, but I really had other visions. I think we could be better. So the process of changing the school culture, and it might not just be a school culture, it could be whatever, is incremental and step by step. And here are some of the key elements, I think, in terms of my own philosophy of educational leadership. Okay, first of all, core values and vision. The vision is something that needs to be articulated, and I'll kind of talk about that as we go here. Student-centered, for me, it was all about the students. So my thought was, what I kind of came to think about, because I remember I was thinking about this process of change and how we're going to move along in this process. I started thinking of the school as my classroom. So taking some of the imagery I had as a classroom teacher and applying it to the whole school. Fundamental, students are to be honored and respected. Total commitment, we've talked about that, the all-in business. Being of service. My approach was, even though I was the principal, I was basically in service of everybody else there. So if you were a classroom teacher and you needed something, if it was that bulb needed to be changed, and the custodian was kind of monkeying around, I got a ladder and changed the bulb. Or if you had a parent that was just totally stepping over the line, call me and I'll reestablish that boundary. Transparency. This is, again, something I learned from the principal that I first worked with. If you're going to do this and do what we're talking about, you can't do it in kind of a you've got to be inside who you are on the outside. Everything has to be congruent. What you say and what you do fit with who you are. You can't fake it, because if you start faking it, people pick it up. Creating a path. The one thing I noticed is that when things were static, that's when things started getting strange. Through leadership and modeling, I was creating a path, in a sense, a way for others to follow along. There's a Taoist saying, Taoism is a Chinese philosophy. Whatever you do, don't wobble. So in that way, I'm not talking about you're so confident that you don't readjust to changing conditions, but your own, again, you're providing a secure path for people to follow. And in the same way, you're creating proper boundaries for people to relate to each other. Best practices. So a quote from Picasso. Picasso said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." So when I looked around, I looked at those schools, I thought, gee, I would like to have a chunk of that. Why aren't we doing this? Take those best practices, bam, they're your thing. And after a while, people forgot you got it somewhere else, Hire well. I was looking for teachers that reflected the core values and teachers who I thought had a capacity for growth. This is a story of John Lennon and his band. So he had this, John Lennon had his band, the Accordion. And so he was kind of like trying to bring some new musicians in, and Paul McCartney came in. And John heard him sing and saw him play, and he's a heck of a lot better than the other guy. Wow. But if I get him, if I bring him into the band, my leadership's going to be question. Because right now, I'm the guy. And what he decided to do was go with Paul McCartney. So again, it's that ability sometimes to submerge the ego and not worry about how it's going to reflect on you. And then I would say, the bus doesn't wait. There's always going to be some, hey, they're not there. They're not on the bus. They need to be left behind. And that's hard work. Firing somebody or doing something like that is difficult stuff, especially in the public sector. But with the Dead, it wasn't really it was really totally all about the music. It was not about egos. They were kind of like, these two guys were the leaders, but, the concert was a fun place to be. There was a melding of everybody there, kind of like a communal thing. And let's leave out the drugs and all that kind of stuff, and some of the hippy-dippy, all that. But I'm just saying, as a happening of everybody coming together. In a sense, all the stakeholders, the musicians, the audience, the roadies, were on the same page, working together in a tremendous collaboration. The experience was joyful, improvisational, and a sense of movable feast. So, why not think big?